All right, we're going to talk just a little bit about school readiness. School readiness means that each child enters school ready to engage and benefit from early learning experiences that best promote the child's success. That's like approaches to learning, their health and physical well-being, language and communication, social emotional development, academics, or cognitive skills. We're going to talk a little bit more about, there's a test that they give when children enter kindergarten called the Brigance, and that shows how kindergarten ready they are. Even if they're not ready, they're going to kindergarten. But studies show that the more ready that children are when they begin kindergarten, that they're more successful, and that carries on even through later in life. So the more information that we can give you all as parents, the better equipped you are to help your child be ready. Especially some of our friends have not been to preschool, so we'll talk about some of those things. I know in kindergarten and preschool we don't sit for long periods of time, but being able to listen is a really good skill. So those are things you can practice. So reading to your child is just a really great thing that you can do. It helps them learn to track words. I point to the words. I don't always point to all of them when I'm reading, but I point to a lot of the words so that they're learning to track words from left to right. And also they'll start to pick out words just from seeing that, and asking questions because it's making them think. What do you think would happen next? Why did the Dexter say that Rufus was scared, or and what would you do if you were that character? So you could put them in that position. Okay. Talk and ask questions about anything. It doesn't have to be when you're reading a book. It can be when you're cooking dinner. It can be when you're driving in the car. Just ask questions about things. Point out print too. Like you pass a sign, you can point that out. There are many concepts that children need to learn before they can learn to read. They need to learn how to hold a book correctly and turn pages in the right direction. They know that each word on a page represents a spoken word. They understand that text is read from left to right. So just understanding that each one of those groups of letters, even though they may not be able to read them yet, is a word that is telling them something. Read to your child often. Introduce books by their title. Sometimes draw attention to the author and illustrator. Make sure some of the books you read have large, bold print and point to the words as you read. Point out signs of your environment. I said something about that. Listening, language and listening skills. These are important. Can they retell a familiar story? So if there's a story that you have told, to your child, like some people may tell the Three Pigs or the Three Bears. If you tell a story or read a story, can they retell that story to you in their own words? Engage with the story, asking a lot of questions. And answering simple questions. Letter knowledge. Uppercase and lowercase letters. So the very most important letters to a child is going to be the letters of their name. The first letter that we teach children in preschool is the first uppercase letter of their name. Then the lowercase letters are also important to them. So learning to spell them is important to them, and then learning those letters. So there's lots of ways that you can explore letters. You can do it with lots of hands-on things. Like here you can see the S made with Play-Doh. There's some other examples. If you look in your packet, I've got some math. I've just got different pictures in here, but you can say if your child's name started with G and they didn't know that letter yet, you could go through a magazine and they could cut out all the G's they could find. Like drawing a big letter and letting them trace them with a dinosaur or a car. In the classroom, we go on letter hunts. So if we're working on a particular letter, we might go through our house, or you could go through your house, but we could go through the school or look through books to try to find that particular letter. So just make it fun. It doesn't have to be, sit down and write this letter. Starfall.com is a free website that you can do letters in isolation. It does little interactive games with the children, and it also will move on to sounding out letters. It has math on it. It actually will go up to second grade. I think it is free on a desktop, but on an iPad I think you do have to pay a fee for it. Can they count words? So it has some blocks in your in here. So if you tell your child a sentence, you might have them help you make up a sentence like, I like chocolate. How many words do you hear in that? I like chocolate. I hear 3 words in that sentence. So just being able to know that there are different words. Can they rhyme? The best way to teach rhyme is just reading lots of rhyming books and playing rhyming games. The first, a lot of children learn the nursery rhymes. We do those in class. Also, they may, if you're reading a book that is like predictable, trying to think that, yeah, Dr. Seuss is very predictable, like if the words keep repeating themselves, and they might repeat it with you, that's good practice on learning how to rhyme, or just making up little silly rhymes and having them rhyme with you. Because being able to rhyme is a first step to being able to learn to read. Because a lot of words, like that they first learn, like cat, hat, bat, sat, have the same letters, but they're just going to change the consonant. It says 4-year-old preschool assessment. This is what we do throughout the year, and this is everything on this is everything your child will be tested on the Brigance. But they're just kind of the skills that we've put together. Don't be overwhelmed by this. Not all of our children go to kindergarten knowing all of this stuff, and that's okay. But this is just a good way for you to know where they are and things that they could work on. Inside that packet, you will also find laminated copies of this. This helps you with this. So like the very first part is just asking them their name, their first name, their last name, their age, their birthday. That's good personal information to know. A lot of kids don't know their address and phone number when they start kindergarten. That's great, they do. Then the colors, the order that they are on here is the order that they are on here. So you can check to see if your child knows their colors. Drawing simple shapes, I usually just model and see if they can draw them. Can they copy their first name? Can they copy their last name? Body parts, knowing shapes. The shapes are down here. And then the uppercase and lowercase letters. The uppercase are on this side, and they're in the same order as on here. And then lowercase. And the numbers are on the back of this. So that's just a good way to see what your child knows. When you look over here, the concepts of print, that's just like knowing things about books. Front of the book, back of the book, being able to, know which way words go. Counting to 30 is good going into kindergarten. Not all children will, but you can just count lots of things. Comparing and patterning, matching objects. So that's like if you had like all these cubes, you could do the shapes on the cubes, or mix them up, and then can they put them together by something that's the same? So can they put all the brown ones together, all the yellow ones together, all the green ones together? Or could they put all the ones with the triangle side up? Could be different things like that. So we'll go back to this packet because it's got some more ways to help with that. Writing over here. This is a Lego activity that you can do with your child, just talking about, adding 1, because that's an early math skill. It's just 1, and then 1 more is 2, and then 1 more is 3. You can use pennies, and you can use a plate to add. You can start out with small numbers, and then you can grow. Cards. War was how I taught my son numbers, just putting them out and which one's bigger. One has an 8, one has a 3, which one's bigger, and then they start recognizing the numbers through that. I think in this tray is sand. You can do salt, you can use cornmeal. Salt sometimes makes your hands not feel real good, but just writing numbers, writing letters in that. This is what I talked about before. If you're learning about a specific letter, or teaching your child the first letter in their name, you can go through magazines and just cut letters out. I talked about that. Then sorting and counting bottles. So these are just like regular water bottles, and they've used pom-poms. You can get those at the dollar store, like a big bag of them. And they just put some color around them, and just, can you put 8 yellow ones in here? Can you put 3 blue ones in here? Another thing that a lot of kindergarten teachers talk about is that children don't have the best fine motor skills when they come into kindergarten, and that is because we're protective as parents. We don't give children scissors a lot, and also we have a lot of technology, and so our kids are using a lot of iPads. We're doing a lot of touch screen things, and so they're not building their strength in their hands the way that probably they used to. When you're having your child cut, always make sure their thumb is up. And when in class, I put a sticker on their thumb, and I always tell them, if you can see the sticker, that you're doing it right. You can let your kids cut anything. One thing I used to do when my son was little is I used to put a tote in my kitchen, and while I was cooking or whatever, I would have like magazines and old mail in there, and I would give him some scissors, and I would just let him sit in the floor and cut into that tote while I was doing what I needed to do. So he was getting, that fine motor strength. There are lots of ways you can build your child's strength in their hands if you feel like it's a little weak. Spray bottles are good. Tweezers, picking up things with tweezers. It doesn't have to be just, using a pencil. Play-Doh. Play-Doh's awesome. There's Play-Doh in there too. You could take beans or beads or anything and stick it in the Play-Doh and have them try to pinch that out. That's a good way to strengthen their fine motor skills. And talking about writing, I tend to skip around a little bit. That's why I'm a preschool teacher. But if you turn a pencil towards you like this, like the pencil is facing you, because a lot of children have a hard time gripping their pencil correctly, and you tell them to get their Krabby Clippers, and then they grab it, and then you just push it. So it makes it a little bit easier, so they get a more correct grasp.
And some of them want to hold it at the very end. Just correct them. Just be like, can you hold it closer to the end? Yeah.
And if your child is still having trouble, break their pencil in half. Break their crayons in half, because it makes them have to hold it closer. In the classroom, we use handwriting without tears pencils, and they're about the size of golf pencils, because they're really made better for their hands. So. There's just a lot of different things in here. It talks about to build fine motor skills. Talks about using eyedroppers, the squeeze bottles, rolling pins, scissors, of course, Play-Doh. Okay. Then you move on to the next page, math activities with Unifix cubes. So the first thing you can do is you can sort. So that's just could be putting the ones together that are the same. You can count. So you could say, could you give me 3 green? Can you give me 2 yellow? Or can you give me 5 total? You can use them for counting. Kids really like Unifix cubes a lot, actually. You can make things where you write numbers on a piece of paper, and maybe do do a number 2, and then do 2 little squares, and then they have to match it up. That's a good way of connecting the numeral to the amount. The cubes are perfect for taking away, putting together. I have 3, give me 2 more. How many do I have? I have 5, take 2 away. How many are left? So it's more, they can see it, they can touch it. Those are easier ways for kids to learn. Patterns. Kids are really enjoy making patterns once they understand them. So that would be like a basic pattern would be like yellow, green, yellow, green. This is actually a math concept because there are a lot of patterns in math. So then the first step would be what would come next? Yellow, green, can they add the yellow? And then can they make their own? We call these AB patterns. And then you could do an ABC pattern. So that would be like, yellow, green, brown, yellow. You all understand what I'm saying. So I'm showing you. You get it. And then can they make their own? And then after you do that for a while, then you can make it more abstract. Like, can you think of something else that we could make patterns with? Like, could be puppy, kitten, something maybe they can't see. Make it a little more abstract, or sissy, brother, and then add on to that mommy, daddy, brother. They're also good for measuring. You can like trace their hand, and then they could see which is bigger. They could measure with these. See that, their hand is maybe 5 tall and yours is 8 tall, and then you could talk about more and less. On the measuring over here, that is non-standard measures. So, being able to tell size difference, sequence by size, like small, medium, and large, and then non-standard units. These are not, necessarily a standard unit of measurement, but they're just a block. You can do that with anything. You could do it with crayons, how many crayons long is the rug, or, anything like that. So, also in our packet is just some questions that you could ask your child. Tell me something that is red and is a fruit. Tell me something that is green and it grows. Just things to get them thinking. Yeah, it's just, I'm not going to read all those to you because I'm sure that you understand. But that's identifying things by 2 attributes. So they might be able to tell you something that's red, but can they tell you something that's red that they eat? So that's just a little higher order thinking. This is indoor gross motor. So in the summer, there's a lot more things to do outside. There's a lot of correlation between movement and reading, eye movement, and how the brain connects to words. Also crossing the sides of the body. So like being able to touch your opposite is a good skill to learning to read. Children who do not crawl sometimes have a hard time reading because the hemispheres of their brain haven't crossed at a younger age, but you can still they have kids in middle school crawl sometimes just to try to make those, I don't know how you explain it, but it's like a vestibular kind of stimulation. So mine's in motion, crawling forwards and backwards, balancing on a line, standing on one foot, skipping, jelly roll, that's just rolling back and forth on the floor, elbow to opposite knee, focusing their eyes on a moving object. A lot of these things, especially preschool age, they just think it's fun, but if they can follow, those kind of things are important to being able to track words. We're learning more about this all the time. A lot of schools have implemented Minds in Motion in their schools where they have like obstacle courses set up that the kids go through every day, and it raises test scores. But the more movement that they can get, the better. Monster Mash. When we went to a training, they had boxes set out on the floor. This could be good for a rainy day. It's really good for winter. So that's just stomping your feet because that's sending the reverberations up. That's stepping in and out of boxes, jumping. And then down here is just some songs that are fun that we do in class. They're on YouTube. So if you just type in the words, I know a chicken is a pretty fun one. We have like Easter eggs, and we put rice in them and we shake them, and so it's like a shaky egg, and it shakes them fast and shakes them slow, and it does it in a shape, and so it's just fun ways to rhythm is also part of reading. You have to have rhythm to reading. You have to have rhythm to counting, rhythm to lots of things. The jumping song. A lot of these are just to be silly, just to have fun with your child. But Count to 100 by Ones by Jack Hartman. I think he has
3 or 4 songs.
3 or 4 versions. I don't know, but it's different exercises that they can do, which is also good for like learning body parts because it might have them touch their shoulders or touch their chest. But there's a lot of different versions of Count to 100. The Body Boogie, Brain Breaks, and Just Dance Kids. There's some really good ones. And the final part, the one that we don't talk about so much, is the soft skills, the social emotional part of being ready for kindergarten, being able to make friends, being able to share. So So this is just giving you some ideas of things you can do to help with that. Read stories to your children that involve feelings. Use feeling words with your child whenever you can. So like if they're upset, I can see that you're sad. Let's talk about how you feel. Play games that are involve taking turns. Because taking turns is something hard, especially my son was an only child, so I know that that had to work on that at home. Being able to, it's my turn now, it's your turn, it's my turn, because they will have to learn to take turns once they start school. Let them draw, sing with them, encourage creativity. Just talk to them a lot. The more that you talk to your child, the more social they'll be able to make friends. But on here is just some 10 soft skills. A child who goes into who's kindergarten ready. Are they curious? Do they persist at tasks and activities? So does that mean if something's hard, can they keep trying? That's a really hard thing for kids this age. It's a hard thing for us to teach too, because some kids are easily frustrated. But just being, I understand it's hard, but can you keep trying? Can we think of another way? Trying to help them work through their problems instead of solving it for them, because as parents, it's a lot easier to just do it, But helping them work through that is a great thing to do. Are they, they like to explore new things? Do they ask questions? Can they work alone? Can they work with other kids? Can they work with you? Just try to, express a positive outlook about school, about them telling you their needs and their wants verbally. So, some children will go to kindergarten and they don't talk yet. But if your child is able to speak, if they want something and they're going, nah, and they can talk, I'm always like, oh, I need you to tell me. I don't know what that means, because those are things that'll help them. Because once they get to kindergarten, if they're just pointing and making sounds, then it's very helpful if they can say, I need a drink, I need, this or that. So I've just told you a lot of information, but I wanted to give you all these tools, some things that we work on in a year's time, but just so you would kind of know where your child is, be able to, figure out some things that maybe could help them over this summer. Yeah, when children first learn their ABCs, it's okay to sing them. Elemental P is not, elemental. That can be very confusing because that's not really a letter. So we try to clap them, like A, B, C, or there's a lot of songs that are on YouTube, like A is for apple, apple, we do that one a lot. But that they're learning the actual letters and not just the song, because knowing those separately, not elemental, is hard. But on the Brigance, they will ask them to say their alphabet. They will not ask them to sing them, they'll ask them to say them. And the same thing with counting. They'll ask them to count. They also ask them to print, which is hard for us to remember to say. Can you print your name? That means write, but they do say that on the Brigance. Can you print? So we do, when we're counting in the classroom, we might hop. And I always talk to the kindergarten teachers, and they're fine with that. If your child wants to hop while they count, that's fine. They can clap, they can do whatever they need to, so they're not just standing there going 1, 2, they can jump or clap or whatever. But yeah, saying their alphabet is important. And if you are singing them with them, just try to slow down at that part, just so you help them. And we go L-M-N-O-P, so that they're saying each letter and it's not just L-M-N-O, because that's not a letter and that's confusing. Just know that if you're reading to your child and you're talking some about rhyming, it will be okay. The syllable blending is things like, yeah, we're doing the same word. Segmentation, that is like my name is Sarah. How many sounds do you hear in that? That's that's syllables. Deletion, can you take the first sound away? A lot of times they do that with compound words. And then beginning sound. So if I say this is a table, can you hear the ta? It's more important that they can hear the sound than they can actually say that's a T, because the sound is more important, because when they read, they're going to say the sound. So, that's what that means. But those are, the ones that are further down are actually further along skills. So, And 70% of this is considered kindergarten ready. And like I said, most children start kindergarten, and a lot of our kids, I would say, I'm usually happy if they know at least 10 uppercase letters and 10 lowercase letters, and know a good portion of this. I was also going to show you on this board, when you're helping your child write their name, and make sure that you're doing an uppercase letter, and I would try to use that language, uppercase or capital, and then the rest are lowercase. So a lot of parents, a lot of parents will teach their children to write all uppercase, but that first letter is uppercase and then lowercase. When my son was younger, when we used to go on trips, go places in the car, go to the grocery store, I used to pack a busy bag, and that would usually have like a notebook, a pencil, maybe a game for him to play or whatever. And when we would go places, I would ask him to write about what we did. So he was kind of like a journal. Like he would draw a picture of what we did, or if we went to the park, he could draw a picture of something he saw. If I went to the grocery store and I had a grocery list, I would have him make me a grocery list too, and it might just be, scribbles to begin with, and that was fine. But he would check off his list as we went. Using those skills and also involving them in things. Because kids this age really enjoy being involved in things, even though a lot of times they want the phones and they want the iPads because that's fun, and they learn a lot of things from those. But the busy bags are good. If you go to a restaurant and you have the busy bag, then you're having some interaction going on too. I know as a teacher and a parent, a lot of this seems very overwhelming, and I don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed. I just want this to be for your all's knowledge. If your child does not have these skills, it's okay. They're going to get there. The teachers are going to help them in any way they can. Yeah, absolutely. If you feel like your child may have some struggles with other things, that's something that you could come and talk to us about, or talk to the office about. Like if you're I'm just going to give some examples, maybe if your child isn't potty trained, or maybe, and that's okay, or if your child is not speaking yet, or any of those things, and this is maybe setting off some red flags, you're always welcome to talk to us about that. Then we can maybe direct you we can help.